Yo, 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 what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there, Mrs. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman?
How the hell are you?
Awesome.
We got some snow.
We did.
We did.
Love it.
Yeah. Snowy in Chicago right now.
More on its way.
Yeah. Very chilly. Hey, everybody out in the world out there. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing great. Hope you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. We love you all out there in the world. I had gotten a very special DM on Instagram, and you all know out there that I love getting emails, DMs, pics, and thank you everybody that's been doing it. But I got a very special one that makes me really realize, and I was thinking about this since I got this DM last Tuesday, how much I enjoy and love doing this show every week. And wish we could do it more, but because I got a DM like this, makes me know that we're always moving in the right direction, always having fun, and always bringing people into the tribe. So I'm going to read this from a listener, and just made my heart feel good. So she is like 17 episodes away now from being caught up. So by the time she hears this, it's going to be kind of funny. So here's what she wrote us. I just wanted to say how much your podcast has helped me and the positive impact it's had on my life. I suffer from a rare condition where I had white blood cells attacking my organs, which caused constant pain. I've went to 3 different doctors in a span of a year, and I've been on so many different medications to help, but none actually did. I was in pain every day, and I couldn't eat, exercise, or even move without making it worse. I almost gave up and just accepted that it was just going to be my life now. Not only did your podcast educate me, but it gave me the confidence to give it a whirl, and I'm happy to say my pain is gone. It's helped me sleep and function on a day-to-day basis, and I can't be more grateful that I came across your podcast. I see you and Mrs. Weedman as my superheroes, and I wouldn't be in pain. I wouldn't be pain-free without you guys. You guys are amazing. I love what you're doing. I've listened to almost every episode, and I'm only 19 episodes away from being all cut up. Overall, I just wanted to say thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. That brought a tear to my eye when I read that to you. It was very, very sweet. And I'm glad you're using cannabis to help. I'm glad it's working. And we'll keep on fighting and keep on talking and keep on teaching and keep on having some fun and keep on educating as much as we possibly can. Thank you for that beautiful DM. It brought a tear to my eye. And it just makes me want to keep on going every day, right, Mrs. Weedman, and doing this podcast.
100%.
And stomping that stigma.
Yep. Yes.
So thank you for that. I'm going to smoke. Mrs. Weedman ate some edibles. She still got her throat thing going on for about another week before she could smoke again. Mrs. Weedman, say hello.
Hello. Is that it?
That's
you just
it.
Want me to say hello?
Well, I'm going to smoke Jack Herrera.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm
going to smoke Jack Herrera that was given to me by a really good friend of mine that works for a cultivator, and this is called Jack Herrera. And you've heard me talk about Jack Herrera before from the same cultivator, so I don't need to go into it, but I'm going to smoke. Mrs. Weeman, take it away.
Yeah, Jack Herrera is actually a higher THC strain, and it's a sativa strain, really good for nausea. Good stuff. I did not smoke. I had edibles. And we were watching TV last night and then dozed off. And you know, when you're in that like twilight sleep and you're like, you have a dream that makes you feel like you're falling. Well, I had a dream that I threw a very specific dream. I threw a brown M&M across our backyard, but my arm physically moved and I like almost hit Mr. Weedman in the head. He's like, "Whoa, you all right?"
I jumped up.
But it was a total stoner moment. Like, oh, I think I was sleeping.
You were.
Throwing brown M&Ms.
That's funny. Then you had one like a second later, didn't you?
Probably.
Like you woke back up again, you had another one.
Oh, yeah, I did. What was I? Oh, I was driving a car in like a circular parking lot, but I couldn't see.
Yeah.
And then I opened my eyes and I'm like, okay, I can see. My eyes work.
That was like 3 minutes later.
Yeah.
You closed your eyes again, and all of a sudden you woke up again and woke me up again. I'm like, you're right. Like I was driving in a circle and in a circle and in a circle.
There were no stripes. I remember there were like no parking stripes, but then I couldn't even see out the window. Gosh. So I don't know if that was a dream or if that was just being high. Maybe a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
You ready to get the show started?
Yeah.
Me too. How many THCs are there, and which one is the strongest? You've heard me talk about a lot of different cannabinoids on this show. This was a great article, and I want to talk about, there's some more I probably haven't talked about in this article, and there's just more information about THC and all the different cannabinoids that comes from THC. So let's get to it. It's a pretty extensive article here, so hopefully it helps. By now, we're all relatively familiar with delta-9 THC, how it functions in the body, and how it affects our minds. At a base level, most consumers know that THC is the prominent psychoactive compound in cannabis. It's the reason pot gets us high. What is less commonly known is how many THCs there really are. In this article, we'll be covering 15 different tetrahydrocannabinol compounds, simply because there is some research available on them. As minimal as it may be for some, there are, however, even more THCs than that. Cannabis science has come a really long way since the initial discovery of cannabinoids back in the 1940s. Who knew there were so many different THCs to choose from? To this day, we continue to uncover new and exciting things about the incredible plant. So, let's get into it. THCA, which we've talked about. For the sake of explaining things, we'll start at the very beginning by looking at THC in its most natural form. THCA. Simply put, THCA is a type of THC found in the raw cannabis plant. So when you walk into a dispensary and start looking at different bud samples and see how much THC is in each one, what you're actually looking at the levels of THCA. Once heat is applied, THCA loses its carboxyl acid group and becomes delta-9 THC. This process is aptly known as decarboxylation, which you've heard me talk about and explain many times. THCA is found virtually everywhere in the plant, including the stems, leaves, flowers. On its own, it has very minimal psychoactive effects. Some people enjoy chewing on the leaves and stems, which can produce some relaxing feelings, but don't expect too much more. The mind-altering effects come into play after decarbing it, as THCA is just a precursor to all other tetrahydrocannabinols. The compound is believed to have a wide array of therapeutic applications and can even fall into the category of nutritional and dietary supplements. THCA benefits by utilizing via eating, blending, or juicing the raw cannabis plant, matter along with superfoods like berries, kale, and avocados. Then there's now delta-3 to delta-7. In chemistry, delta refers to the location of the double bond of molecules' carbon chain. In the case of THC, we have many different variations. With delta-9 THC, the double bond is the 9th carbon chain. Move the bond over one spot to the 8th chain, and now we have delta-8 THC. Keep moving the double bond, and you get a variety of different delta THCs. Delta-3 THC, delta-4, delta-6, delta-7 are all synthetic isomers of delta-9 THC, developed between the 1940s and 1970s to establish different versions of THC. That could be used to avoid patent problems and issues with shelf life and stability. I have not been able to find any mentions of delta-5 THC anywhere. Although some minimal research into these compounds does exist, it's not much and not anything very substantial. It is generally believed that these synthetic isomers are not as potent as delta-9 THC, although that is not always true. The only worthwhile research I was able to find here was regarding delta-6 THC and its potency in the human brain. A study from the 1980s discussed how several cannabinoids can cause brief cataleptic episodes. Cataplexy is a disorder characterized by the body's inability to move or respond to external stimuli. Body stiffness and muscle rigidity is common. During the study, delta-6 was not found to be heavily correlated with catalepsy. However, it was noted as being one of the most potent cannabinoids with very powerful effects on the brain. Delta-8, 9, and 10. When people think of delta-9 THC, it was what they were thinking of. Delta-9 THC is the main psychoactive compound in cannabis plant. For decades, delta-9 has been at the heart of the prohibition efforts because lawmakers were too intently focused on the mind-altering properties while completely dismissing all of its many possible uses in the health and wellness sectors. As delta-9 ages, a significant portion oxidizes and degrades. Most of it turns into CBN. while a small amount turns into delta 8 THC and possibly other trace cannabinoids and compounds. As a result of the chemical process, delta 9 THC remains stable when exposed to air, meaning it could have more potential medical applications than delta 9. Although delta 8 is somewhat less potent, in cannabis plants, delta 8 is only present in trace amounts. So most of the products you find online or in stores, the delta 8 THC is actually a synthetic converted from CBD, not a plant extracted compound. Then we have delta 10 THC. D10 is completely synthetic cannabinoid that was discovered on accident. As with many of the nation's cannabis trends, delta 10 THC started in California. An Adelanto-based company, Fusion Farms, bought some outdoor flower to manufacture concentrates. As many already know, California is subject to very large, nearly annual wildfires. And unbeknownst to Fusion Farms, the biomass that purchased was contaminated with fire retardant. Since they were unaware of the contamination, they continued with the extraction as planned, but after the distillation process, unusual crystals began to form. These crystals were similar to THC, slightly different from any previous identified cannabinoid, and thus it was dubbed delta 10 THC. 11-hydroxy THC. You all know this. This is when you eat edibles and your liver turns into 11-hydroxy THC. So, with growing popularity of edibles, 11-hydroxy THC is an important compound to cover. 11-hydroxy THC is not a cannabinoid per se, but a metabolite created by our own bodies when we consume THC in certain ways. When you eat plant-based THC, such as delta 8 or delta 9 THC, the body breaks it down and metabolizes it via the liver. 11-hydroxy THC is the resulting metabolite of the other tetrahydrocannabinols and is much more potent. This is why delta 8 THC edibles are just as strong as delta 9, but the same can't be said for flower or vape products. This process is known as first-pass metabolism, and it's the reason why ingesting cannabis products orally has much more intense and long-lasting effects compared to smoking. So, if you've been wondering why edibles get you beyond baked, this is why. If you're anything like me and many other cannabis users I've spoken to, edibles hit different than smoking. Oh, yeah, they do. Mrs. Weedman's granola hits different.
Yeah.
I'm a daily smoker, and even though it takes a while to feel anything, once the edibles kick in, I'm laid out on the couch almost every time. I feel more stoned, I'm laughing at everything, and eventually I get super tired. This seems to be a commonplace when it comes to edibles. But why exactly do they differ so much from smoking from a scientific standpoint? Let me take a sip of water, everybody. It comes down to two factors: the drug metabolizing enzymes in your GI tract and blood flow to the liver. When you first eat a cannabis edible, various enzymes in the GI tract began digesting the food. From that point, blood flow from the GI tract goes to the liver, where all the enzymes are metabolized. Then in the blood continues to general circulation. When the metabolites are formed, then you get the effects of the 11-hydroxy THC. However, when you smoke cannabis, THC is absorbed through the lungs and distributed directly into the bloodstream. The active compound make their way to the brain, where they interact with the CB receptors that are part of the endocannabinoid system. In this scenario, you are feeling the effects of the phytocannabinoids themselves, rather than the compound formed during metabolism. Some new THCs that I've talked about, some I might have not talked about. So let's talk about THCV, THCP, and THCO. THCV is a naturally occurring analog of THC. THCV comes from the precursor cannabinoid CBGVA, which breaks down it into THCVA, which then is decarboxylated to form THCV. What's interesting about THCV is the way that it interacts with our endocannabinoid system and the effects it has on the appetite and weight. THCV receptors antagonist, which is the reason THCV is known to suppress appetite, whereas delta 9 THC is a CB1 agonist promoting hunger, or, like Mrs. Weedman talked about in the last episode, munchies. This theory has been tested pretty extensively on mice. Man, those mice. Although human trials are lacking, either way, this could be possible breakthrough treatment for diabetes and other dietary weighted related health conditions. Now, THCP, on the other hand, is a special type of THC analog called a homolog. A homolog is a molecule belonging to a series of compounds that offer from each other by repeating unit. In this scenario, the repeating unit is like alkali side chain. Delta 9 THC has a 5-term alkali side chain, which means that it contains 5 total carbon atoms. THCP has an analog 7-term chain. Man, science. Best. So, let's see. And finally, let's take a look at THCO acetate, which is referred to as an acetate ester of delta 9 THC. Let's cover what exactly that means. We know that delta 9 THC is created as a result of decarboxylation of THCA, but there's different ways that decarboxylation can occur. An acetate ester is a byproduct of a certain type of decarboxylation called LTA decarboxylation, a process that is very different from the standard method of heat-light induced decarboxylation. LTA decarboxylation uses a very toxic compound known as lead tetracetate to promote oxidation and create oxidative decarboxylation, resulting in acetate ester. Acetate ester is not naturally occurring and can only be produced using some sort of chemical catalyst. As such, THCO acetate is a synthetic analog of delta 9 THC. Although it's gaining popularity, especially in vape products, it's important to know that this is not a compound found in a capacity in the cannabis plant. Now, some recently discovered THCs, THCH and THCB. Tetrahydrocannabinol or B delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, THCH, or ethyl delta 9 THC, along with cannabidexol, CBDH, or phytocannabinoids that were discovered in 2020 by the same group of Italian researchers who first isolated THCP and CBDP. In short, THCH is a hexyl homolog of delta 9 THC. Delta 9 THC, and then this THCH carries the N hexyl side chain rather than the alkyl-like most THCs. Man, woo, science. These are the first hexyl derivatives of cannabinoids that have been discovered thus far. The definition of hexyl group is an irregular, saturated radical compound of hydrogen and carbon derived from hexane. Often, this is the result of the loss of one or more hydrogen atoms. The situation with tetrahydrobutol is quite similar. It's a homolog of delta 9 THC, with the main difference being the butyl side chain replacing the alkyl chain. There is virtually no information available on the cannabinoid other than the discovery that has an affinity for both the CB receptors comparably of that of delta 9 THC. So, which THC is the strongest? The answer to that is a bit complex, but here it goes. When it comes to the strongest, THC, it depends to the extent what product type of consumption methods you're most interested in. To elaborate on that further, if you're looking for the strongest smokable type of THC, then THCO will likely be your best bet. The downside for the writer anyway is that it's completely synthetic and the long-term effects of vaping is still unknown. If you're looking for something naturally occurring, then THCP is said to be extremely potent. Unfortunately, it's the trace cannabinoid, so you won't find large amounts of it in raw flowers. To utilize this compound, you'll need to find concentrates, vape products, and other extracts that contain it. Realistically, 11-hydroxy-THC is probably the most potent form of THC, but obviously you won't find a specific compound in any products because it's a metabolite formed when we eat THC products, not a true phytocannabinoid. And if you're not a person who likes to use edibles, then you're not getting any 11-hydroxy-THC anyway. For the writer personally, I get the best effects from Delta 9 THC products. Despite the belief that THCP and THCO are stronger, I personally have not noticed being any higher when using products containing these compounds. It's just a different kind of high. Call this writer a purist, but she still gets the most stoned off a good old-fashioned high-quality flower and live resin concentrates. So the conclusion, when it comes to the cannabinoids in today's market, variety is certainly not lacking, although many of these THCs are not yet available commercially or pharmaceutically. It's exciting to know how many different versions of this psychoactive compound are being discovered and how slight chemical variations can lead to some interesting differences in effects and benefits. And the writer of this great article, I think I've read a couple other things from her before, written by Alexandra Hicks, and this was on CBD Testers, was where I found the article on. So really, really good stuff. Just more information about THC and all the different cannabinoids that come from it, whether it being coming from strictly from the plant or synthetically. But a lot of good research is going to start being done on a lot of these, because we're going to find that some of these cannabinoids can really, really do some justice for people. So good stuff. Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah, now that we've had science class with Mr. Weedman, is everybody awake? Chop, chop. Hello, everybody. Did we lose a few of you?
I hope not.
I spaced out a little bit.
Must have been an edible.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting what you were sharing. Yeah, lots of technical information.
Science.
Well, now we're going to go into high thoughts.
High thoughts.
High thoughts.
With Mrs. Weedman.
What are they, and why do they happen? Well, there are many different experiences that can come from using cannabis, but one of the most noticeable impacts that cannabis can have is how it affects our thoughts. High thoughts, the way we think when we are actively high on cannabis, can take us by surprise with its dramatic shifts. Sometimes funny or absurd, sometimes creative or seemingly genius. I've had those moments, or so I think anyway, and sometimes downright dark and scary. High thoughts can leave us inspired or utterly confused, like throwing M&Ms in your backyard in your dreams. These differing thought patterns can be unpredictable in how they manifest for individuals, but they can mostly be attributed to the way the THC and other compounds in cannabis impact the brain. When we use cannabis, its many cannabinoids, such as THC and CBD, activate our natural endocannabinoid receptors. This leads to most of cannabis's numerous effects on the body and mind. One important impact from THC, the main psychoactive component of cannabis, is an increase in cerebral blood flow to certain parts of the brain. In one study, researchers found that many areas of the brain had increased blood flow after THC consumption. They theorized that the behavioral and mental changes associated with cannabis intoxication may be connected to increased cerebral blood flow and increased functional activity of certain areas of the brain. In previous work by the same authors, cerebral blood flow was found to correlate more strongly with cannabis intoxication than even the amount of cannabinoids in someone's bloodstream. The frontal region of the brain showed the largest increase in cerebral blood flow after THC consumption and is responsible for some key brain functions. Normally, the frontal lobes are believed to be responsible for our level of wakefulness, as well as some very important cognitive functions like abstract thought, synthetic reasoning, organization of independent behavior in time, and space toward future goals, sensory data processing, cognition, volition, and initiation of motor activity. Given that the frontal lobes are responsible for all of these important thinking skills, it's hardly surprising that boosting that area of the brain with increased blood flow and thus increased functional activity would lead to some wildly different thoughts. But the frontal lobe isn't the only part of the brain contributing to high thoughts. The insula, which is involved with sensory perceptions like taste and flavor, as well as mediating stress-induced cardiovascular responses, has also had significant increased blood flow. Researchers also noted the right hemisphere, which is associated with mediating emotions, was substantially more activated than the left. The cingulate cortex, which also showed high correlations between cerebral blood flow increases and self-reported THC intoxication, is believed to regulate the interactions between sensory information, emotions, and pain. One important thing to point out is that while acute THC consumption appears to be correlated to increased cerebral blood flow, and therefore to the alterations in the way we think, these changes in brain function are temporary. On the other hand, after chronic consumption of THC, preclinical research does suggest that there may be reduced blood flow and neural activity in certain regions of the brain. And these alterations may be negative rather than positive. There's also some evidence that suggests that CBD has its own unique effect on cerebral blood flow. Some researchers have shown that CBD may also increase blood flow to regions of the brain involved in memory processing, particularly the hippocampus. This effect could help explain why early research on CBD has been so promising for brain-related illnesses like Alzheimer's, addiction, and PTSD. High thoughts can impact anyone who consumes THC, but they are more likely for some than others. Studies show that those who have never used cannabis before, or those who use infrequently, tend to have more noticeable or extreme high thoughts than those who use cannabis regularly. There can also be big differences between individuals in terms of how cannabis impacts their thoughts, which could suggest genetic or contextual factors matter. Dosing can also make a big difference on how your thoughts shift. A small amount of cannabis may actually produce totally different effects than a big amount. In the same study mentioned above, the participants who were mildly intoxicated with THC reported feeling more sociable and relaxed, while at higher doses they reported being less sociable, not thinking clearly, worse memory, paranoia, and rarely hallucinations. This is more evidence of what is known by scientists as the biphasic effect of cannabinoids. There are so many ways our thoughts might change when we get high. In the study about how it feels to be high, these are the most common changes participants reported: being more relaxed, feeling happy, laughing more, having an altered sensory experience, changes in time perception, improvements in concentration and memory, increased creativity, and thinking more deeply. Additionally, participants who consumed cannabis alone reported different effects. Solo consumers reported more mellow effects, and those consuming as a group found more euphoria, laughter, and wakefulness. Some did have negative side effects too, and they experienced sensations such as paranoia, anxiety, decreases in concentration and memory, and hallucinations or visions. Here are a few of the commonly reported ways that high thoughts might manifest. Mind-blowing ideas. One trope about cannabis use is that it'll give you the feeling that you are having the most brilliant ideas of your life. But then, the next day, the idea doesn't seem so great. This is the case for some people, and science suggests that it's totally possible. Cannabis increases blood flow to parts of the brain associated with many different aspects of thought and decision-making. The increased flow is usually associated with increased functionality. So once you get high, you may find your brain buzzing with ideas. In fact, more than half of cannabis users report cannabis increases their creativity. Some studies have found it increases divergent thinking, a type of creative thinking. But the improvements in divergent thinking were only found with low doses of THC. This might be why we get such different accounts of whether cannabis helps or hurts our brilliant creative thinking. This is also why dosing is such an important aspect of every session. Funny thoughts. When you're high...
Funny thoughts.
Funny thoughts. I get funny thoughts.
You do.
I do. When you're high, you might also find, well, again, but I'm high, so I think I'm really funny, but...
I think you're funny.
I appreciate that. It's the only time. Generally, I'm not very funny.
I think you're funny.
I think I'm funny, but whatever. Don't give me a stage. When you're high, you might also find that everything that you think about is hilarious or absurd. If you find yourself laughing at everything, that is likely because THC is increasing blood flow to parts of your brain associated with laughter. As they become overactive, everything just seems funny. Additionally, THC can also help promote happy, relaxed, blissful feelings, much like an antidepressant or anxiety medication. These happy feelings make it easier to laugh and enjoy the humor in life. While many high thoughts are pleasant or hilarious, some are exceptionally unpleasant. Cannabis can lead to anxious, paranoid, negative thoughts. Sometimes these can be intrusive in our mind and we are unable to stop thinking about them. Those who experience these thoughts regularly usually don't enjoy getting high.
I've said it before. It's your head. When people say they're paranoid, I don't. It's not the paranoia. It's your brain trying to fucking work some shit out for you or
Right.
with you.
But like what they're saying, this is the biphasic effect.
Right.
Like if this particular strain is known for causing like euphoria, laughter, energy, it has to do what they're saying is for some people it's a low dose.
Right.
And then if you smoke like one hit too much or you eat, half of an edible more, you kind of miss out on those results.
Right. And your
Or
receptors
because
not getting that laughing.
yes, because you've gone kind of beyond it. You're
Right.
too high, and then you're not getting the same. But you're getting
Right.
the opposite benefits,
Right.
right? So cannabis has biphasic effects. This means that most effects can be reversed at a high enough dose. While a low dose may induce a happy feeling, a high dose of the exact same strain may flip the switch in the other direction, inducing negative, anxious feelings. That's crazy. I really didn't know that. The ideal dose tends to vary from person to person, so it's always good to start low and increase your dose slowly. In rare cases, cannabis can also induce a sort of temporary psychosis. Those who experience this report hallucinations, visions, and illusions. Some might think they're seeing something moving that is still, or they think they hear voices or indistinct white noises like the whir of a fan. My sensories when I'm very high
Heightened.
I feel like an animal. Like I feel like I can hear an ambulance that's like 5 miles away, and like the furnace of a neighbor's house 2 doors down. Like, what is that noise? What do we hear? I don't mind it. I kind of like it. In most cases, these effects are short-lived, very much so, and they end after the high. Unfortunately, some research does tie high THC cannabis use to schizophrenia and suggests that cannabis use, particularly for adolescents and young adults, might put some at risk for schizophrenia later in life. This association is mediated by factors like family history of mental illness, genetics, and childhood trauma. So, how long after consuming cannabis do you typically experience high thoughts?
High
High
thoughts.
thoughts. Most regions of the brains show significant changes 60 minutes after using low doses of cannabis. For high doses of cannabis, you peak around 30 minutes. The method of your consumption also impacts your timing, with smoking and vaporized cannabis versus edibles, right? We've talked about that a lot. In most cases, though, high thoughts should subside within a few hours after the max brain levels of THC have passed. But certainly, the lingering effects of edibles have been known to last up to 12 hours or longer. While there's no way to directly control where your mind will go when you're high, there are some strategies that you can employ to keep your experience positive and productive. Consider your mindset and your setting. We talk about this all the time. If you're new to it, don't explore it with alcohol. Don't explore it in maybe a public place. Be in a controlled situation. Be home. Be at a friend's house who smokes a lot. Maybe you are out, but you're in a kind of a peaceful, quiet setting somewhere. Just kind of be in a pure state. I think it's the best way to get used to it, in my opinion. And then once you get to understand it, then you know how to incorporate it into the activities that you do, and if it's the right thing to do or if it's not. So consider your mindset. Consider your setting. Play with the CBD-THC ratio. The high THC cannabis is the most common, but can also be the most difficult to dose with. We recommend considering high CBD ratio cannabis for anyone who has experienced intrusive high thoughts, as CBD can alter the effects of THC. So CBD will calm that super high down. If you're like super high THC and you're not liking where you're feeling, have some CBD. It can calm that down. And then choose the right dose. And obviously, it's trial and error. Depends on your age, depends on how often you use these things, but you have to get familiar with it. Start low, start slow. That's it.
High Thoughts.
High
by
Thoughts with
Mrs.
Susan.
Weedman. Synthetic CBD may protect patients from contracting COVID-19. Now, this is from Canadian scientists. The last episode I read was from here, and now some Canadian scientists found some research too. So, more research saying cannabinoids may protect human cells from COVID-19 was released last week from scientists in the Ontario working with synthetic CBD. Researchers at the University of Waterloo reported in a pre-peer-reviewed study that the synthetic CBD appears to prime the innate immune system of cells, potentially offering protection against pathogens such as SARS-CoV-2, the virus. Coupled with the Oregon State University announcement that 2 hemp cannabinoids may protect human cells from SARS-CoV-2, the University of Waterloo research lends additional firepower to CBD manufacturers who have long had to rely on anecdotal evidence more than academic studies to argue for the plant's medicinal values. Synthetic CBD works by augmenting an antiviral response of cells to 3 key proteins produced by the SARS-CoV-2 gene. The Waterloo scientists concluded they looked at the antiviral response in human kidney cells alone in combination with CBD. So this was done in human cells versus the last one was just done in a petri dish. So this was done in human kidney cells alone and in combination with CBD and the effects of CBD in healthy control cells. When the cells in the lungs of the digestive tract are infected with the virus, they have an ability to sense and respond even before the immune system notices a virus is present, said Robin Duncan, the study's lead investigator and the professor in the University of Waterloo's Department of Kinesiology and Health and Sciences in the university's statement. They do this by activating innate response inside of cells, which form the first line of defense. But the early response system hasn't been good in the case of COVID-19, which had led to high infection rates, Duncan added. With the RNA-type virus, the SARS-CoV-2 cells should actively an innate system that cuts up the viral gene, which also causes effective cells to undergo a process called apoptosis. Apoptosis, a sort of controlled cell death that gets rid of the infected cells early on, she said. The process stops or slows infection in the body or to others. When we combine CBD with these viral proteins, they had a much better ability to activate the system and to activate apoptosis, Duncan said. In cells that had been exposed to SARS-CoV-2 protein, CBD in the therapeutic amounts seemed to prime their innate antiviral systems and made them more ready to fight viral infections even without activating, Duncan said. CBD on the right dose could help cells get ready to respond to a virus, but it doesn't cause a response unless it's needed, said postdoctoral fellow Marie Fernandez, who performed the cell studies. This is supported by evidence from a study of patients who use high-dose CBD-based pharmaceutical CBD licensed in the U.S., Epidiolex, to treat rare types of epilepsy, Duncan said. The study conducted by scientists from the University of Chicago with funding from the National Institutes of Health showed the patients taking prescription high-dose CBD had around 10-fold lower risk of testing positive for COVID-19. Ooh, that's great. If you look at the last figure, they report on the risk of testing positive for COVID-19 in people using Epidiolex and analyzed information in a variety of different ways, Duncan told Hemp Industry Daily. The University of Chicago research was released as a peer-to-peer reviewed study in March of 2021. Normally, scientific studies are released after undergoing peer reviews by the journal in which they will be published. Duncan said, however, given the urgent need to share information related to COVID-19 as quickly as possible, many researchers are now posting pre-peer-reviewed versions. The University of Waterloo study is co-authored by Duncan Fernandez, John Zween, Chan, Chai Chun, and Joey Hung, and Michelle Tomaswecki. The university says the study is under review in the journal Life Sciences. Man, that's great. Some more great news. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Keep
For
on
sure.
fighting, man. Diabetes. What's the difference between men and women with cannabis?
Well, the cool thing is ladies who use cannabis are regularly, I should say, are less likely to become diabetic. Whoop, whoop. Go ladies. This is new research. So women who use cannabis regularly are less likely to be diagnosed with diabetes than those who don't, according to new research conducted at Texas A&M University. Diabetes is a chronic health condition that affects more than 34 million Americans. This condition is caused by a metabolic failure to produce or process insulin, which can cause high blood sugar levels and eventually lead to kidney and heart disease. Diabetes is responsible for over 87,000 deaths per year in the U.S. alone, and there's currently no cure for this disorder. Researchers at Texas A&M conducted this new study to expand upon prior research suggesting that cannabis users may be at a lower risk of diabetes. The study authors looked at data from 15,062 people who participated in the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey from 2013 through 2018. This survey asked subjects if they had been diagnosed with diabetes or other health conditions and also questioned them about their use of cannabis and other drugs. The researchers discovered that women who reported using cannabis regularly were less than half as likely to be diagnosed with diabetes than women who did not get high. Women who only toked occasionally were just as likely to have diabetes as those who stayed away from cannabis entirely, though. And strangely, cannabis use had absolutely no impact on diabetes risks for men, regardless of how much cannabis they use. Heavy cannabis use is inversely associated with diabetes in females, but not males, the study recently published in the Cannabis and Cannabinoid Research Reports. Further studies are needed to explore the association between cannabis use and diabetes. The present study is purely observational in nature, so it does not offer any insight into exactly why women who use cannabis are less likely to have diabetes. Other research studies may provide some clues, however. A 2017 study found that tetrahydrocannabinol, THCV, a non-psychoactive cannabinoid, lowered blood sugar levels in subjects with type 2 diabetes. A more recent study also suggests that cannabinol, CBM, a recently discovered cannabinoid found in hemp, could stimulate insulin signaling, which may have potential as a new form of diabetes treatment. Whew, that's crazy. It is also possible that the reduced risk of diabetes observed in the present study is purely a result of lifestyle choice and not specifically due to an effect of the cannabis use. Contrary to the lazy stoner stereotype, studies have found that cannabis users actually exercise more frequently than non-users. And other research has found that pot users tend to gain less weight over time. Researchers have also reported that cannabis use is, in general, cannabis users are healthier, happier, and even less likely to contract cancer than people who say no to pot. Go pot. Further research will be necessary to fully explain the relationship between cannabis and diabetes and to understand why this relationship may differ between men and women. And while researchers conduct new studies to explore whether cannabis can effectively deter or treat diabetes, other scientists are exploring whether psilocybin, shrooms. Psilocybin. Wow. That doesn't look like that. Psilocybin. Yeah, it does look like that. Mushrooms could have a similar effect. Pretty cool.
Nice.
So that's news to watch. There's a lot of people with diabetes.
Yep. Some things to know what's going on in some states right now. The Mississippi House of Representatives approved a medical cannabis legalization bill and now heads back to the Senate, which passed it last week for the final vote on new amendments. And reading a little bit more about that, too, it looks like they did lower the gram total, and it looks like it's going to head to the governor's desk. New York, new budget plan projects that the state will generate more than $1.25 billion in legal cannabis tax revenue over the next 6 years. Man. The South Carolina Republican Senator, who is sponsoring a medical cannabis bill, said it will be on the Senate floor this week for debate on special order, meaning that the body must vote on it before any other legalization is taken up or legislation is taken up. The Republican chairman and top Democratic member of the Pennsylvania Senate Banking and Insurance Committee announced they are be filing a state-level cannabis banking bill to serve as a companion to the Federal Safe Banking Act. Good for them. A Utah Republican representative filed a bill to create a task force to study and make recommendations on therapeutics uses of psychedelics such as psilocybin for treating mental health disorder. It's so crazy how much they're talking about psilocybin and LSD and MDMA now. and before it was like so taboo, but being used for PTSD and helping treat for depression and all that stuff. And let me tell you something: if this all gets passed before full federal legalization of cannabis, as much as I mean, I like mushrooms and stuff like that, but I'll be pissed.
Yeah, for sure.
A political consultant to Texas Agriculture Commissioner was indicted in an alleged hemp license bribery scheme. Some federal news: the Drug Enforcement Administration is proposing to place 5 tryptamine hallucinogens on Schedule 1. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said licensed hemp businesses are eligible for its Rural Energy Pilot Grants Program. The Supreme Court heard an oral arguments in cases about the terms of crack offense resentencings under federal criminal justice reform legalization. Representative Earl Blumauer of Oregon tweeted 41 states across America, including Oregon, have voted to give terminally ill patients the freedom to choose their expendable treatments, but the federal government is blocking doctors from being able to facilitate psilocybin-related therapies. I'm leading the charge to change that. Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina tweeted about discussing her cannabis legalization bill with a Harvard class. Let's see. Some more state news. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy said that his second inaugural address that businesses in the new cannabis industry that we are setting up in the name of social justice as part of the efforts to continue growing the innovation economy that will power our future and make us a model for the nation and the world. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards criticized Democrat U.S. Senate candidate's ad that shows him smoking cannabis. Wait till I talk about this article. Oh, I'm so proud of this man. A spokesperson for Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb said that his opposition to cannabis legalization hasn't changed, but that he will review any bills lawmakers send him. Hawaii's Progressive Legislative Caucus is backing a cannabis legalization bill. The South Dakota Senate Health and Humane Services Committee voted to limit medical cannabis patients to 3 homegrown plants and approved other medical cannabis legalization. Got some more to talk about South Dakota in a second. The chairman of Missouri House Veterans Committee said he would refer lawmakers to pass cannabis legalization rather than have voters do it via ballot. He's scared because he knows it's just going to pass because the voters want it. Let the voters vote on it. Kentucky lawmakers held a press conference to support cannabis legalization. Separately, the representative sponsoring a medical cannabis bill said he thinks the votes are there to pass it, but must first convince Senate leadership to bring it up. New Mexico lawmakers are only considering a handful of cannabis bills this session. A New York Assembly tweeted, since 2001, more than 30,000 veterans have died by suicide. When it comes to suicide prevention, we should try to have every treatment option and bring it to the table. Utah regulators launched an effort to expand medical cannabis access. Ohio regulators suspended the medical cannabis employee license of Ancient Roots CEO for allegedly giving out product samples. Montana regulators are accepting top submissions for upcoming roundtable discussions about cannabis. The Washington Senate Social Equity and Cannabis Task Force will meet Monday. Nevada regulators will consider cannabis businesses issues on Tuesday. So that was going on in a lot of states. I got some more stuff. Here's something crazy about Illinois. Know this if you haven't seen this yet. It's being talked about with some other podcasters in Illinois and some writers in Illinois and some articles. But there was a bill brought up. It's an amendment to the state's Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act here in Illinois. Provides that for the purpose of this act, and now withstanding any other provisions of law, cannabis flower with greater than 10% THC, cannabis concentrates with greater than 15% of THC, and cannabis food products with greater than 15% THC are prohibited and may not be cultivated, produced, or sold in the state of Illinois. And provisions regarding laboratory testing requires an active ingredient analysis of each batch of cannabis and cannabis-infused products tested by the approved laboratory that includes THC percentage. And this bill is being sponsored by Representative Mark Batnick. What are you doing, Mark? We didn't vote you in to change this law. We didn't vote you in to make sure you change the THC percentages on what's going on and what we need for our medicine and what people like to use. Are you going to lower alcohol percentages down to under 10% on all alcohol? What about cigarettes? Are you going to lower the nicotine on cigarettes? Stop picking on something that's here from Mother Earth, Mark. Vote him out. If he's going to do that to us, cannabis community of Illinois. Something crazy. I didn't realize this. There was no dispensaries in Bolingbrook, and now they're allowing it. Good for Bolingbrook, Illinois.
New town. A new town with weed.
Yeah. Cannabis banking bill sponsor says he's going to get the darn thing passed before leaving office. And this was Ed Perlmutter, representative of Colorado. Before he retires, he wants to get the Banking Act done. He said it's just, can't believe it's not done, basically what he's saying. Most Americans predict Biden won't uphold cannabis decriminalization promise in 2022. And that was from a poll. And he hasn't done anything for cannabis. But he was out there speaking before he got elected. He was out on the road talking about cannabis legalization, decriminalization, getting prisoners out. Hasn't done anything for cannabis. And I know there's a lot going on, but you said it on the campaign trail. Oklahoma lawmakers seek to exert local control over medical cannabis growers. There is 8,300 active licensed growers in Oklahoma with a population of 4 million. That's a lot.
How many? What?
8,300
growers?
Active licensed growers as of January 6th, according to the Oklahoma Medical Cannabis Authority.
Dang.
8,300.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
But if they're
active.
like craft growing, like small batch.
Yeah, but that's a lot for only 4 million people. It's only medical there,
it's like
too.
every neighborhood
But
has
it's only
its own.
medical.
Oh.
It's not even rec.
That's right.
So, crazy. State issues first in South Dakota. First 3 medical cannabis licenses in South Dakota were issued finally. My gosh, it's taken forever. Don't forget, everyone, they voted to have home grow. They voted to be at medical and recreational in South Dakota, and it's taken over a year to even get 3 licenses. And there is no cultivation in fucking South Dakota right now either. So they open these 3 pot shops. Where are they going to get the weed from? And you can't go over state lines. And now also South Dakota's, because the people voted for it, they wanted home cultivation. They were allowed to go 3 plants, and now they're trying to stop that too. South Dakota. I'm telling you, South Dakota cannabis community, they are holding us and holding you captive on the laws that you voted. So your vote absolutely means nothing in South Dakota. And right here, they're proving it. Vote them out. Rhode Island governor includes cannabis legalization as budget's in next budget request. Good for you, Rhode Island. Lawsuit in Georgia stalls for the medical cannabis market. We don't talk much about Georgia, and I hate it that we don't talk much about Georgia. Last time I talked about Georgia was about vaping products and going medical, and that was forever ago.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
They don't come up much.
It's so weird that they just don't even just decriminalize it, pass a law that people can home grow. Let people just be able to grow it themselves. Don't worry about dispensaries. Don't worry about cultivation. Let the people just grow it themselves. And stop being scared of fucking all you states now that are stopping home grow or trying to stop home grow that you passed on a bill. Stop being scared of not making enough tax dollars. And cultivators saying they don't want it because it's going to take money. That's bullshit. I've read so much about what states are bringing in. It's just greed. And if you're talking about black market, home grow, you're never going to stop the black market. You've tried and you failed. You're never going to stop it. If people want to grow and give their weed out to their friends and family members, don't stop it. Nebraska. Activists say new GOP medical cannabis bill is poison bill meant to detract from ballot efforts. Of course they're going to stop that because they know the people want it in Nebraska. Bipartisan Pennsylvania senators filed bill to let medical cannabis patients grow their own plants. Good for you, Pennsylvania. That is great. Do not be scared. Let people home grow. Do not let corporations take over cannabis that they were so against for so many fucking years, and now all they want to do is make the dollar. Let people home grow. Free the fucking plant. Let everybody grow. Not just medical patients. Anybody should be allowed to grow the plant.
Mr. Weedman.
Jack
Breathe.
Herrera.
Take a breath.
In move to stifle illicit sales, New Jersey won't allow cannabis home grow.
Whoa.
What illicit sales? There's already a black market in Jersey. Jersey, let people home grow their own fucking medicine. Another state that was going to ballot, let it happen, and now they're not. Austin lawmakers approved cannabis decriminalization initiative for May ballot. Good for you, Austin. U.S. Senate candidate smokes cannabis blunt in campaign ad about harms of criminalization. This dude, this man, this gentleman is a fucking stud. I watched his video. I watched his ad. And I tell you what, that took so much fucking cojones. Democrat Gary Chambers of Louisiana running. People of Louisiana, vote for this man because he was not afraid. He's not afraid to go on a public ad campaign and an ad that he was running, and he supported it. Mr. Gary Chambers smoked a blunt in his camp. Never in the history has it been done. And this man, I'm so fucking proud of you. If anybody knows this man and he wants to, and we can get him on the Weedman 420 Chronicle, I would love to have him on and smoke a blunt with him, because that takes a lot of cojones. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for fighting for the 40,000 federal prisoners for nonviolent cannabis, whatever. I'm so fucking hyped up that this man did this. Unbelievable. If you haven't seen it, it's 37 Seconds, Legalized Cannabis by Gary Chambers. Man, fucking awesome. Awesome. Ugh, love it. Education on cannabis in colleges and schools. I went to one.
You did?
I went to a
We've
junior
talked about
college.
that.
And,
Yep.
Yeah, and took a few courses, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at Moraine Valley Community College.
Yeah.
Really good.
Very
really good.
Cannabis education is trending
Trending up.
at major universities
Nice.
in America. Yeah. If you were entering college and heard about a new industry that had grown 46% since 2019, would you pursue a degree in that field? Well, if so, you'd be one of thousands of students considering an education in cannabis. Forbes reported legal cannabis sales hit a new record of $17.5 billion in 2020, up nearly double from the year prior. Institutions of higher learning aren't about to miss out on that boom. According to Leafly, there are now 321,000 full-time American cannabis jobs in the legal market. There are even some cannabis companies offering scholarships to help their employees expand their expertise. VeraHeal and Steadfast Labs, for example, are offering $1,200 scholarships annually to staff pursuing cannabis studies. With the industry's expansion, it's not surprising many accredited universities are investing time and money into cannabis education. Some universities offer only a few classes, while others have full degrees in cannabis. With so many options available, students can choose whatever classes best suit their needs and interests. Northern Michigan University began offering a degree in medicinal plant chemistry in 2017. The program debuted as the only 4-year degree program of its kind to combine experimental horticulture and advanced analytical chemistry with an optional entrepreneurial track, said their news director, Christy Evans. They are now offering a multidisciplinary indoor agricultural associate degree for careers in medicinal plant and agricultural food production. Lake Superior State University in 2019 began offering a degree in cannabis studies with a focus on cannabis chemistry. They've since added a degree in cannabis business, and the university's Cannabis Center of Excellence offers courses like cannabis economics, cannabis law and policy, and the survey of cannabis business. Western Illinois University offers a cannabis production minor and a cannabis culture minor. Cannabis production is focused on horticulture sciences and plant physiology, where students take classes like crop biotechnology. The cannabis culture minor focuses on how the prohibition of cannabis negatively affected the lives of people of color. Students with this minor would take classes like contemporary moral problems and cannabis and pop culture. Ohio State University, Moritz School of Law, offers a course on marijuana law and policy and a seminar too. One popular course is Cannabis, where they explore the legalized cannabis industry from a corporate transactional perspective. It focuses on business-first approach to initiatives on decriminalization and legalization. It also discusses the long history of marijuana and policies already in place. At Stockton University in New Jersey, students can get a minor in cannabis studies. Every student with this minor is required to take medical, marijuana, and cannabis law courses. The university also offers an online cannabis certification course. It's composed of 6 courses, including cannabis cultivation, Introduction to Research in Medicinal and Adult Use Cannabis, and Introduction to Business. At New York's sunny Morrisville, they offer a cannabis industry minor. The 6 courses required are based on understanding a variety of production and processing techniques and evaluation of market trends. Some of the course options are hemp production and processing and soil science. The University of Denver's Sturm, S-T-U-R-M, College of Law.
Say that again? Sturm?
No, the R is after the U.
Oh,
Sturm.
Sturm.
I wanted to say Strum.
Strum.
Sturm College of Law offers many classes on marijuana law and policy. One of the courses currently featured is Representing the Marijuana Client. The course focuses on challenges of representing a person with cannabis offenses amidst frequently changing rules and regulations. The Pueblo Division of Colorado State University created the Institute of Cannabis Research in 2016, offering the nation's first multidisciplinary cannabis research center at the regional institution. Pueblo's campus offers a degree in cannabis biology and chemistry and a minor in cannabis studies. As California is one of the hottest spots for cannabis, it's no surprise the University of California offers a course called Medicinal Cannabis and Chronic Pain. The Davis section of the University of California is the only area that offers this course. Graduating with a degree in cannabis is not as strange as it sounds. Cannabis jobs are opening and growing faster than any industry. According to a study by Leafly, by 2029, there will be a 161% increase of cannabis jobs in America alone. It's looking more and more like that federal legalization is coming soon. Getting in on the ground floor of any new industry is often profitable. Even if it requires some hard work and a lot of patience, cannabis degrees are legitimate and give students a chance to learn about something they're passionate about. The cannabis space is full of opportunities in science, engineering, chemistry, math, and technology. People passionate about the plant are not pursuing the study of intoxication. They're helping expand an industry focused on medical innovations and lucrative business opportunities.
Sweet.
Yeah.
It's going to grow more.
Oh, yeah.
More and more colleges are going to add it into the curriculum.
Yep.
Yeah. Canadian retail cannabis sales increased 36% in November to $354 million. International news right there. Canadian retail, just banging.
Yeah.
So, killing it. Switzerland's federal court has decriminalized minor possession of cannabis. Good for you, Switzerland. That's great. Ukraine media outlet says legislator looking at legalizing medical cannabis in 2022. This is great news, and I'm not going to butcher this person's name, but MP from the Servant of People paramilitary faction, a member of the Verkhovna Rada Committee of Public Health, Medical Assistance, and Medical Insurance, said in an interview, he noted that the government bill deferred from the bill proposed by the committee members and sent for revision, in particular in strengthening the control of the National Police of Ukraine over the circulation of cannabis. In addition, according to him, the wording of the document initiated by the Canada ministers more clearly defines the essence of medical cannabis, the procedure for its import. The politician stressed that the adoption of the relevant legalization would provide more than 2 million Ukrainians with the access to medicines. That's great. There were many narratives in the society that it was allegedly the drug legalization. Neither the bill sent for revision nor the new government's bill has a single word about drug legalization. It's just medical cannabis, he said. Expressed hope that the Verkhovna Rada would adopt the document in 2022. Go Ukraine. Hopefully you guys legalize it there. Pets.
Pets.
What are the perfect pets for a stoner burner pothead? And this is not our opinion. This is just the article's opinion.
And I will say this isn't much of an article. It was just low maintenance pets for that are perfect for a stoner, and it lists 6 or 7 pets.
Yes,
It doesn't say
so
why.
It's perfect.
But they all just happen to be small caged animals, with the exception of a cat. So they're suggesting that the best pets for a stoner, I guess what they're saying was like they're easy, like low key, low energy animals. So you got hamsters, caged, right? Cat, they're entertaining. Bird, We have 2. They're pretty amazing.
We have 2 parakeets.
We do.
Vega and Sunny, and they
Yeah.
are very entertaining, very fun, and very loving.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I'm like,
Super interactive.
if you're looking to get your first pet, get a parakeet. They're
Better than
so
a hamster.
easy.
Yeah. We raised kids, so you go through the goldfish, you go through the hamster, then they want a lizard, then they want a snake, and then they take care of it for about 2 seconds, and then you have to take care of all these animals.
Yeah.
And then we had birds, but the birds and dogs were the ones that stuck for us.
Yeah.
We've always had a parakeet.
We've always had a parakeet.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the easiest pets to take care of. They're cute. They're
super
awesome.
interactive, more personality than I ever knew that they could have. They're funny. Hamsters, they just sit in that cage and don't do anything.
And go on a wheel.
But anyway, they might be good for a stoner. Snakes, not my thing. Guinea pigs, they're cute. What was the other one? That little porcupiney thing? The hedgehogs. Those were real big for a while too, right? I guess that would be like in the guinea pig family. Fish, sea monkeys. I was like, where the heck do you remember the sea monkeys?
Easiest
when we were kids?
pet to take care of is a sea monkey.
They never worked. They never hatched.
All they were is little shrimp.
I know, but I kept waiting for the little face to come out. Like the picture shows, like a little.
That's why everybody
cartoon
bought
character.
it. That's
What
why I
is
bought
this?
it. I didn't know it was. I didn't know. I thought a sea. I was gonna be like, holy shit, a sea monkey! I want them. I used to get all the time, and they would never hatch.
They don't do anything.
But then my dad finally figured out. He goes, you know what they really are? He goes, I'll go to the pet store. We feed them to our fish all the time. They're just those little brine shrimp that you put. That's all they are. I was bummed. I'm like, that never knows. Sea monkey. He goes, yes, this is a sea monkey. I'm like, no, it's not.
And the last one is a rabbit.
Bunny.
So if you're looking for a pet, you don't want to have to do too much. That's where you should start.
I suggest a parakeet, a budgie.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're looking,
they're fun.
a nice medium-sized cage, train them, get the one. Don't just buy one from a pet store. Get one from a hand breeder, and that's fed, and then you get to go visit it for the first 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then that bird will be attached to you. And once they start talking and start saying words, oh my goodness, it's so much fun.
They're pretty fun.
They do a lot of crazy stuff. They're an easy bird to take care of. Their cage, you clean once a week. You feed them every couple of days. Give them some fresh. They're so timeless. You can leave them home for 24 hours. It's just, to me, budgie all the way.
Can you tell he likes having parakeets?
I do. Never not had one in my life.
They're good.
So that's the show.
That's it.
That's it.
We're done?
We're done.
Meh.
I know.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. Hey, everybody around the world. We love you all out there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the DMs. Thank you for all the emails. Thank you for the weed. To our good friend who gave us that Jack Herrera over at Arise. We appreciate you truly. A really good friend of the show and a good friend of mine. We love you all around the world. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Hey, sorry about it. The last episode. I was really baked, and we got some DMs from people saying that it was a little low in the volume. Sorry. Too much edibles, too much Majin Fujita all at once. Woo, 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 woo. We'll make it up to you. So, but thank you all around the world for listening. We love you all. Have a great week, everybody. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puffing away.
Puff, puff, pow.